Afternoon, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your Super Bowl Sunday. I want to begin by highlighting some important news from north of the border. Today, ahead of the Secretary's meeting of the Counter-ISIL Coalition in Brussels on Thursday, the Government of Canada announced that it is adjusting its contributions to the campaign. The Canadians are tripling their training mission in northern Iraq, doubling their intelligence effort, as well as expanding their humanitarian and development contributions. They will continue to contribute to the air campaign in addition with refueling and aerial surveillance aircraft, even as they conclude missions with their CA-18s. The Secretary sees these as significant contributions, and he appreciates the decision by the Trudeau government to step up Canada's role in the campaign at this critical time. The Secretary is looking forward to discussing the details with Minister of National Defence Sajjan in Brussels this week. That will be their first bilateral meeting. The Canadian announcement is the kind of response the Secretary has been looking for from coalition members as the United States and our coalition partners push to accelerate the campaign against ISIL. The Secretary expects to discuss additional contributions from countries willing to step up their role during the meeting in Brussels this week. As the Secretary has said, the United States is willing to lead the coalition in the fight against ISIL, but the barbaric group poses a threat to every nation, so every nation should join this fight. If countries are unwilling or unable to contribute militarily, then they should consider the important non-military ways they can contribute to this effort. If you can't send troops or your aircraft, then consider assisting financially with the humanitarian effort or help rebuild places like Ramadi, scarred by ISIL's terror. Thursday's meeting will once again lay out for coalition members the enduring requirements for the campaign and what countries can do to help. Canada's announcement, along with the Dutch decision last week to join the air campaign in Syria, adds momentum to the effort as the Secretary prepares to host Thursday's meeting. As you know, the Secretary also has a full NATO agenda while he is in Brussels. Key topics for discussion at NATO include the President's decision to quadruple funding for the European Reassurance Initiative. The Secretary believes the expansion of ERI will enable the United States to strengthen our robust military presence in Europe, enhance partner capabilities, and improve our ability to uphold our Article 5 commitments to NATO members. It should make clear that America will stand firm with its allies in defending not just NATO territory, but also shared principles of international law and order in response to recent Russian aggression. Now, I also wanted to follow up on North Korea's missile launch from this weekend. Following on the heels of North Korea's recent nuclear test, the latest launch represents yet another destabilizing and provocative action that only undermines peace and stability in the region. The United States remains fully committed to the security of our allies in the region, and we will take all necessary steps to defend ourselves and our allies and respond to North Korean provocations. To that end, and in response to the evolving threat posed by North Korea, the United States and the Republic of Korea have made an alliance decision to begin formal consultations regarding improvements to the alliance missile defense posture, specifically the viability of a terminal high-altitude area defense, or THAAD system, operated by U.S. Forces Korea. This alliance decision was recommended by General Curtis Scaparrotti, Combined Forces Command and U.S. Forces Korea Commander, and senior government officials of the Republic of Korea. The goal of the formal consultations is to bilaterally explore the feasibility of THAAD deploying to and operating on the Korean Peninsula at the earliest possible date. As General Scaparrotti said this weekend, THAAD would add an important capability in a layered and effective missile defense. The bilateral discussions that will occur underscore the ironclad commitment of the United States to defend the Republic of Korea. If the THAAD system were deployed to the Korean Peninsula, it would be focused solely on North Korea and contribute to a layered missile defense that would enhance the alliance's existing missile defense capabilities against potential North Korean missile threats. Lastly, I did want to remind everyone of the release of the President's budget tomorrow as well, and specifically the release of the DoD budget plan. As Secretary Carter made clear last week, today's security environment is dramatically different than the one we've been engaged with for the last 25 years, and it requires new ways of thinking and new ways of acting. The budget plan to be unveiled tomorrow meets those current and future challenges head-on and reflects critical investments in the nation's defense, while also incorporating reforms that will ensure taxpayers get the most bang for their buck. The budget plan, again, will be released tomorrow, and the Secretary looks forward to discussing the proposal with Congress when he returns from his trip to Europe. But because of the Secretary's travel, Deputy Secretary Work and Comptroller McCord will host tomorrow's budget briefing here in the briefing room. That is set for 1:30 Eastern tomorrow, weather permitting. And with that, I'd be happy to take your questions. Bob?
Peter, a question for you on the Korea announcement you mentioned. With regard to the consultations, it said that to be deployed, if it's deployed, to be deployed at the earliest possible date. Does Secretary Carter have any kind of timetable in mind? Is he talking about before the end of the year or before the end of the month? And are there any other kinds of military actions or preparations that are adjustments that are being contemplated or being made with regard to Korea?
Well, first of all, on the last part of your question there, you have to remember we are constantly assessing the security threat posed by North Korea in consultation with our South Korean allies. We have 28,500 troops on the Korean Peninsula right now. We will adjust and will continue to adjust, but this is one particular idea on the table right now, the THAAD system, that we're going to begin the consultations with the South Koreans over the deployment of this. And I think, Bob, without getting into a timeline, again, we'd like to see this move as quickly as possible, but we're beginning the consultations now in the coming days with the South Koreans, and we expect that this will move in an expeditious fashion.
There are no specific other adjustments or actions that are on the table, so to speak.
Well, again, Bob, we are constantly adjusting. We may not discuss publicly everything we're doing, but we feel confident that that we have assessed the North Korean threat in consultation with our allies in the region, not just South Korea, of course, Japan, others as well, and that we'll be able to respond accordingly. But we do feel at this particular moment, given the actions over the last few days, that the addition of the THAAD system would only enhance the protective measures that we already have in place. Those are details that will be worked out through the course of our consultations.
Peter, can you help us understand what capability that, if it was deployed, the THAAD system would provide? As a theater missile defense, would it, for instance, provide any protection for the United States, or would it be more for the allies in the region? What capability does it add that doesn't exist now?
Well, it's, again, Jamie, this would be part of a multi-layered missile defense that we have. And again, it would be designed to bolster our capabilities. I'm not going to discuss all of those capabilities up here, but we do think it would add another level of reassurance to our South Korean allies, to other allies in the region, and we think it would be an important step forward, as General Scaparrotti suggested, an extra layer of defense, an extra layer of insurance, if you will, to the missile defense system that we already have in place.
For instance, would this system, had it been in place, been capable of shooting down the long-range rocket that North Korea launched Sunday morning, Korea time?
Again, I'm not going to discuss capabilities of all those systems, but we feel confident that the addition of the THAAD system would bolster those defenses, and that we would have had the capability had that system posed a threat, for example, to the United States, that we would have been able to respond to that.
Okay, and one more thing. How do you assess, what's the assessment of whether or not this North Korean rocket or missile launch was a success? Was this a successful test of this technology?
It was successful in adding further destabilization to the region. It was another provocative action that does nothing to enhance stability on the Korean Peninsula. As to whether or not it achieved North Korea's goals, you can ask the North Koreans, but there's nothing about this test that surprises us. So in that sense, again, it's consistent with what we've seen previously from the North Koreans.
So the satellite did go into orbit then? That's the question. I mean, did they successfully get the satellite into orbit?
We've been able to determine that they were able to put a satellite or some space device into orbit, but again, characterizing how successful that was and how I'll leave that to the North Koreans, but there's nothing they did that comes as a surprise to us. Jim.
For years, the U.S. policy had been to prevent North Korea from getting a nuclear weapon and getting an intercontinental ballistic missile. It appears they got them both, right? I mean, still questions as to how effective their nuclear device is and how effective the ICBM or something, the equivalent of an ICBM would be. Now you're putting, or maybe putting, a missile defense system in. Has the U.S. defense strategy become accepting and dealing with a nuclearized North Korea?
Jim, we're in a situation now where we have at the UN Security Council, not just the United States, but Russia and China, condemning this action. Clearly, this is something that requires an international response as well. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to do what we need to do to protect the United States, to protect our allies. This country continues to pose a threat. Its actions over the weekend only enhance that position. So we're going to continue to do what we need to do to protect the United States, our citizens, and our allies at the same time.
You, of course, work for a defense secretary who years ago advocated for military action to destroy nuclear facilities on the ground in North Korea. I know he's since said he no longer holds that position. It's a different time. But are there military options still on the table to neutralize North Korean nuclear facilities on the ground? Are those still on the table?
Jim, I will maintain what I said before. Every day our forces along the border there are ready to fight tonight. We are ready every day to respond to the North Korea threat. I'm not going to get into every single aspect of our posture in North Korea, but we're satisfied that we have the capabilities right now to deter the North Korea threat. We're adding or proposing to add in consultation an alliance decision to enhance those capabilities right now in terms of a defensive measure, but we're confident that we have the capabilities necessary. Tony.
Speaking of capabilities necessary, the American people care less about THAAD than they do about the effectiveness of the ground-based defense system. It's had one success out of 3 attempts since 2008. What is the current level of confidence in the ground-based missile defense system with it at the senior levels of OSD in terms of attacking and destroying an ICBM launch from North Korea?
I'll just reiterate, Tony, that we feel confident we have the capabilities to deter the North Korea threat from posing a threat to the United States. And it's a multi-layered defense system, as I mentioned, and that's one aspect of our multi-layered defense. And again, we feel confident that we have the capability, the technology, the tools necessary to deter that threat.
Even if it's only had one successful intercept in 3 attempts since
I'll
2008.
repeat again, Tony, we believe we have the tools, the capabilities necessary to deter the North Korea threat. Yes?
Thank you. Switching to Guantanamo, where is OSD on presenting a plan to Congress to shut down the base? Or the facility?
My understanding is the plan that has been presented is with the White House, and we hope again to have a proposal in the hands of Congress in the very near future. And we hope that Congress is prepared to work with the administration, with the Defense Department, with the White House on moving this plan forward so we can begin the process of responsibly closing Guantanamo and dealing with those detainees at Guantanamo who cannot be transferred to another country. As the Secretary has pointed out, that is a critical obstacle here, finding a place to locate them in the United States. We believe this plan will present Congress with ideas for dealing with that situation.
And really quickly on the situation in Syria, what's going on in Aleppo? Has the U.S. military thought any further about delivering aid there or setting up a safe zone?
We continue to monitor the situation in Aleppo closely, as we do every aspect of the civil war in Syria right now. It still appears to be a contested situation, and we're tracking very carefully what's going on there. And in terms of options on the table, things under consideration, we don't have any announcements at this time. Hold on.
My colleague.
Yeah.
One more about Korea. And on the officers start consultation between U.S. and South Korea about the THAAD missile issues. Do you have any detail about these issues?
My understanding, have they started, is that your question?
Yes. THAAD missile.
Yes. My understanding is that the formal talks have not yet begun, but we do expect that they will begin in the next few days.
So between the United States and South Korea agreed talking about the THAAD missile issues?
Yes, that it's been an alliance decision to begin those consultations. A working group first would discuss again the specifics about any potential deployment. Yes,
Peter,
Paul.
the Chinese government, going back to the THAAD missile system, the Chinese government has expressed some concerns about any additional missile shields on the peninsula. Have they brought those concerns to the department, and are they going to come up during the ongoing negotiations with the South Koreans?
I'm not aware of any direct communication we've received from the Chinese here at the Department of Defense. I refer you to the State Department if they've had any consultations or any word from the Chinese. But again, this is a system that, as we point out, would be focused, a defensive system put in place to deal with the threat posed by North Korea, in addition to the layered missile defense that we already have in place. And so we don't believe that it should pose any sort of concern to the Chinese. Jamie.
Given that North Korea reacts badly to even the most innocuous U.S. military moves, just routine exercises, it often decries them as provocative and warlike. What would you anticipate their response will be to this potential deployment of that, and what would the response from the Pentagon be to what I think we can anticipate will be bellicose statements from Pyongyang about this deployment, which you have made clear is a defensive deployment?
Well, I just reiterate, this is a defensive system put in place because of North Korean actions. Most recently, the launch from over the weekend. And again, this is a response that we feel necessary to take because of North Korea's own actions. And if the North Koreans are concerned by this, they have an easy solution here, and that is to stop their own provocative actions. And again, they're in violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Abiding by those resolutions would be an excellent place for North Korea to start. Yes?
Yeah, hi. In between, when a THAAD system might enter the peninsula, are you guys upping your BMD posture, or is there going to be more independent BMD patrollers coming out of 7th Fleet, or Aegis destroyers kind of out there? Is that something that you can talk about, like, as specifically as you can, or is there going to be an emphasis from some of these offshore kind of sea-based units to go and be able to take on this BMD mission? It sounds like there's
you make a good point that again, we have a multi-layered system in place. I'm not going to get into specifics, but just we feel confident that our posture right now is adequate to the challenge and the task. But we do think adding THAAD would simply only improve that posture and improve, if you will, the reassurance level for our allies in the region and for our own forces in the region as well. Yes.
Continuing on the North Koreans' capabilities, what is your current assessment of the range of their missile capabilities? Does it extend, for example, to the West Coast, or does it cover all of the continental U.S.?
I don't have right in front of me our latest technical assessment. Again, we're looking at a missile defense system that we feel is adequate to the challenge posed by North Korea today. And again, we judge our capabilities equal, certainly, to the task or the challenge posed by North Korea.
I'm sorry, is that assessment being reassessed based on this launch this weekend?
I'm sure we're going to be evaluating every aspect of the launch this weekend, factoring that into our own calculations, but there's nothing about this launch this weekend that comes as a surprise to the Department of Defense. Yes?
There's been a large emphasis on the importance of international cooperation with combating ISIS. So given the Canadian announcement today that they're pulling out of the combat role, how will that impact the fight against ISIS in Iraq and Syria?
Yeah, well, as I said at the top here, the Canadians are adjusting their contribution, and this was a commitment with regard to the aircraft that the Prime Minister made during the campaign, and they have following through on that commitment to curtail those flights, but at the same time, the Canadians are tripling their commitment to the Train, Advise, and Assist mission in northern Iraq. They're providing other intelligence assistance, doing more on the humanitarian and development side, and we consider those very significant contributions. And we welcome those contributions from the Canadians. They're still flying refueling and surveillance missions, and that's an important part of the campaign as well. And we welcome other countries looking at the Canadian example, seeing what else they can do as part of this mission. But we appreciate what the Canadians are doing, and again, think it sets a good tone for countries that are traveling to Brussels for this meeting with the Secretary to see what else they can offer. There are a range of capabilities that will be needed in this fight to accelerate the fight against ISIL. It is not all aircraft. There are a host of things other countries could do that we think would further this effort, and Again, Canada is an example of a country that is adjusting its contributions in very specific ways, ways that will certainly help the coalition moving forward. Yes.
Canada's tripling its stringers. What, can you talk numbers here? What does that bring?
I'll leave that to the Canadians to walk through the specific numbers. But again, this is a critically important part of the campaign. We've talked about the need to train the Iraqi forces as they move on from Ramadi and take on ISIL and other parts of Iraq, ultimately in Mosul. Training will be a critical component, and again, the Canadians are joining that international effort. They've already been part of it, I should point out. They're simply expanding their role there, as other countries have been offering to do the same.
Staying in Syria, currently the Pentagon is targeting only ISIS in Syria and not Jabhat al-Nusra, and critics have alleged that the U.S.-led coalition strikes against ISIS have actually empowered al-Qaeda's affiliate in Syria, and the group has gotten stronger. Your reaction to that?
I know General McFarland was asked about this the other day. Our primary target right now is ISIL, the fight against ISIL. And as General McFarland pointed out, that particular group, Jabhat al-Nusra and ISIL, don't necessarily see eye to eye, and I think he wished them well in taking each other on. We wish them all the success in the world. But to your larger point, the critical thing right now is to target ISIL, but we have not lost our focus on al-Qaeda as well as a threat to the United States, and we will continue to do what we need to target al-Qaeda and its affiliates as well as we have in other parts of the world.
Why doesn't the Pentagon strike al-Qaeda in Syria on a regular basis?
Our focus right now, the coalition's focus, is on the threat posed by ISIL because we see that as the most immediate threat to the United States and to our allies and partners in the region.
And overall, after 10,000 airstrikes since August 2014, the size of ISIS or ISIL has not changed significantly, yet Russia in just 4 months in Syria have clearly made an impact, changed the facts on the ground in Syria. Is Russia winning here?
Lucas, we've talked about this before. What Russia is doing is bolstering the Assad campaign, which is only fueling Syria's civil war and arguably making things worse. I would not consider that winning. If Russia would like to see a diplomatic resolution to what's happening in Syria, and they've indicated that they do, then their actions, they could do more to bolster that effort. And what they're doing right now in terms of support for the Assad regime is counterproductive to that secondary goal they say they have, and that is resolving the Syrian conflict.
Is the United States winning in the war against ISIS right now?
Lucas, you know, this is a fight that we've been engaged in for some time now. We are making progress in this fight, but there is a lot of work to do, and we are enabling those local motivated forces that can take the fight to ISIL in Iraq and Syria. We're going to continue to do that. We've got a critical meeting on Thursday with now 28 other nations, 27 other nations that are contributing militarily to this effort. There'll be other nations present at that meeting who are not contributing militarily but are contributing in some form or fashion. We'd like to see those numbers grow even further. We're at an inflection point right now, an important moment in the fight against ISIL, and we think there is an opportunity to accelerate this campaign and deliver the lasting defeat to ISIL that we and the rest of the coalition feel is not only necessary, but necessary sooner rather than later.
Peter, quick follow on the missile. You said it was a successful launch. Just to be clear, did the U.S. observe anything new in this launch, greater, I don't know, capability, stage, etc.? Or
Not aware of anything about this launch that is we've determined at this point is distinctly different from previous launches. I'll come back to Tara first. I'll come back over.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Another follow on North Korea. Given the sensitivities with the Chinese regarding a potential THAAD deployment, has there been any outreach to the Chinese? And how would this further
You
complicate?
must have been walking down the hallway when I got that question.
Oh, I'm sorry if I missed it.
I'll repeat it again. But I'm not aware of any communication we've had here at the Department of Defense with the Chinese. I'll leave you to check with the State Department if they've had any engagement. But the purpose of the THAAD system, again, is a defensive system. It would be specifically put into place to deal with the threat posed by North Korea alone. And we don't feel that any other country should have any concern about the deployment of this system given its defensive nature.
But is there any any risk to, I guess, increasing tension when there's already an issue like the South China Sea?
There is a risk of increasing tension thanks to the actions of the North Koreans. And we believe that they have taken another provocative action here, which, again, only destabilizes the situation further destabilizes the situation on the Korean Peninsula. And the Chinese have condemned their actions. We have condemned their actions. It is the North Koreans who are raising these tensions. And we are considering now, again, this move with our South Korean allies to enhance the defense, the security posture of South Korea, of our own forces that are in the region, and our allies, other allies and partners in the region as well. Yes, Aaron.
Back to Canada. Obviously, as you said, this was a campaign promise from the leadership of Canada to withdraw from the actual striking of targets. How much discussion was there back and forth between the U.S. and Canada, between Canada and the coalition, about what roles they could fill instead of those military actions?
This is a good example of something. There's a new government in Canada. The Secretary will meet for the first time with his counterpart in Brussels. He's had a phone conversation with the Canadian National Defense Minister previously, but this is their first chance to meet face-to-face. I know the Secretary is looking forward to it. And this will be a chance, again, to compare notes. The Canadians have already outlined what it is they're doing today. I know that there were some conversations with us, but this is a decision that the Canadians have made in terms of their own interests, their own national security interests. And again, we appreciate the contributions they're making, the adjustments they've made to the campaign. These are significant contributions, and the Secretary looks forward to discussing with his Canadian counterpart how these will not only help the campaign, but again, what the other needs are going forward that not only Canada could perhaps play a role in, but other countries assembled there in Brussels could assist us with.
You mentioned discussions. I mean, was it a situation where the Canadian government came to the U.S. government and said, we're making this move, we want to continue to assist in this fight. What areas do you need most support? What can we do specifically?
We have, without getting into the Canada example specifically, we have conversations with coalition members on an ongoing basis as to what the needs are, what the requirements are for the campaign going forward. These are everyday conversations that happen with commanders, with their counterparts at CENTCOM and elsewhere. So this is an everyday conversation. And again, something that as we pointed out for those who made the trip to Paris, the meeting there included a discussion, Admiral Fox in particular, laid out what the long-term, the enduring requirements for the campaign would be, so that every country has an idea what's needed going forward, how they might be able to fit into that mix. And it's not all aircraft, it's not all trainers. There are a whole host of other things that are important to this campaign going forward, whether it's logistics support, whether it's training of police. The Italians have played a critical role in training of the police. They've been very successful in that particular aspect of the campaign. Now the hope is that maybe that can be duplicated further by other countries as well, adding to the police forces, the training of the police forces, because they're going to be so important in terms of holding those areas that the ISF are able to clear. Ramadi is a perfect example of that. And the final point I'd make is financial contributions. This is an expensive campaign. And if countries can't contribute militarily or in some other tangible way, then certainly financial contributions would be important as well. So I'm going to move back over here. Some people have no questions. Jacqueline.
You said that Canada's response here, or Canada's change in effort here, is the kind of response that Carter's been looking for. Does that mean in Brussels he's going to be primarily lobbying for help with training and intelligence and things of that nature, or is he also going to be pushing for more military help?
Well, I think that's military help. When you have uniformed military people performing training in Iraq, we consider that's a military contribution. So I don't want to. I think it's important to look at it exactly as it is. But the Secretary is going to be looking, as I just said, for contributions in a whole range of forms, whether it's additional combat aircraft, whether it's ISR, whether it's refuelers. That's just one aspect of it. Then we have trainers of the Iraqi security forces. We have trainers of police. These are critical things. Logistics. Not all these contributions may seem perhaps as exciting as others, but they're critically important. Financial contributions alone would make a difference here. You look at a situation like what's happened in Ramadi, the devastation in Ramadi, footing the bill to get the water on again and the electricity in a place like Ramadi is critically important to the Iraqi people and to making sure that we deliver a lasting defeat to ISIL and that those people get a decent life back. And so we look at those contributions as well as part of the conversation that will happen in Brussels. Phil.
Just a quick follow-up on Tara's question on China. Could you explicitly say that the THAAD system will not be looking into China? I mean, why isn't it? Why shouldn't other countries be concerned about it? This system is highly capable.
It's going to be focused on the threat posed by North Korea.
Not into China at all?
This is an alliance decision that we're making with South Korea, and we're doing this in response to what the North Koreans have done, and that's how it should be viewed.
Have the Iraqis agreed to allow the tripling of the Canadian troops, and will the Secretary Thursday be proposing to the Allies, or will he tell the Allies how many additional U.S. troops will be deploying to Iraq?
I'll leave you to speak to the Canadians about their own diplomatic negotiations with the Iraqis, but the Iraqi Prime Minister, for example, Defense Minister, will be in attendance at the Brussels meeting. So again, I'll leave that to the Canadians to spell out their own conversations with the Iraqis. And I know that the Secretary, as part of the conversation in Brussels, will certainly make clear what the U.S. role has been and will be going forward. But I'm not going to look ahead to the nature of all those conversations he has with our coalition partners. Kassim.
On Syria, some sources on the ground say that a new group of U.S. special forces were deployed in Kobani to help Syrian Democratic Forces to plan an offensive on Manbij city. Can you confirm?
Kassim, I'm going to sound repetitive here, but I'm not going to discuss the location of U.S. special forces and whether or not they're in any particular area. We've said we have a small number of special forces that have been operating in Syria, and they've performed great work, but we're not going to get into details that might expose them to risk.
Will the U.S. support Syrian Democratic Forces as they are now moving toward Manbij city?
We continue to support the Syrian Arab Coalition, other forces that are taking the fight to ISIL in a host of ways, and we'll continue to monitor the situation on the ground and support those local, motivated, capable forces that are taking the fight to ISIL. That's consistent with where we've been the last few months. So,
I'm sorry. Turkish President Erdogan said over the weekend that U.S. should prefer either PYD, Kurdish rebels, or Turkey. And we know that you are considering PYD as a capable forces fighting ISIS as well. Will you defy the Turkish president's remarks and support the Kurdish forces over there as they are fighting on ISIS, or are you going to consider his remarks?
NATO Turkey is a NATO ally. We'll continue to have our conversations with the Turkish government about the fight against ISIL and the best way to execute that fight. At the same time, we're going to continue to support the moderate forces, the capable forces that are taking the fight to ISIL. And again, they're part of the coalition. We're going to continue to coordinate, have our conversations with the Turkish government and in the most appropriate fashion. And again, focus the coalition's efforts on defeating ISIL, which is where we think Turkey and other members of the coalition want to achieve the exact same goal we do. So, yes, Carla.
Thank you. It's been a few days now since Saudi Arabia has said that they were willing to put boots on the ground in Syria. What type of mill-to-mill conversations has the United States had with the Saudis about this?
I know that the Secretary is looking forward to speaking with his Saudi counterpart in Brussels. That'll be one of the, we anticipate one of the bilateral engagements he'll have, and in addition to the meeting on Thursday. So he looks forward to learning more of the details, and again, probably best to wait till he has that face-to-face conversation to learn more exactly about what they're offering. But again, as with others willing to contribute more to the campaign, that's good news, and that's welcome news. And we look forward to learning more about the role the Saudis can play, the greater role the Saudis can play going forward. Louis.
Peter, two different topics here. Going back to Zika virus, there are growing concerns about this virus. And we saw Southern Command, I think a week ago, issue their voluntary relocation program. Are other combatant commands or DoD looking at similar avenues for their personnel that might be in, not necessarily in Southern Command, but in other areas that are close to them?
I'm not aware of any other combatant command at this point that's had to make the same adjustments that Southern Command has for obvious reasons. Just geographically, my understanding is the virus is focused essentially in Southcom's area of responsibility. So I'm not aware of any other adjustments. If there are any, we'll let you know. And as you said, this is Southcom doing what it needs to do, prudent steps to address this threat right now for the men and women within Southcom who may be in geographically within the area where this virus poses a threat.
And the other question has to do with cyber defense. I guess there's been a new hack of 10,000 DHS employees that's been compromised by a hacker. Is there any role that, I mean, can you guarantee that OSD has enough cyber defenses to prevent a similar hack against military or DoD civilian personnel? And also, I mean, is there anything that can be done on the cyber offensive front by NSA to kind of counter these kind of persistent attacks?
Well, you know, this is something that this department takes very seriously, the Secretary of Defense takes very seriously. I think you'll see that reflected in his budget release tomorrow. But we're under attack all the time here, and this is an everyday challenge for us to confront. We feel confident that we're taking the steps that we need to try and defend our networks. That is the first priority for Cyber Command, but this is a significant threat and an evolving threat, and one we have to constantly adjust to. So I can't make ironclad assurances, but I can tell you how important this is, what a priority this is for this department, for Cyber Command, and certainly for this secretary. All right, got time for two more.
Peter, there was a release at the end of January from the coalition saying that a coalition member had died in a non-combat situation in Iraq. Do you have any more details on who that person was and how they died?
I'll take that question and see if we can provide you more details. I don't have anything with me up here. But last one, Lucas.
Any update on the investigation into why 10 U.S. Navy sailors, in the Secretary's words, misnavigated and went into Iranian waters last month?
Yeah, my understanding is the Navy investigation is ongoing. I have not heard the results of that, but this is in the Navy's hands to determine exactly what happened. And again, I'd refer you to the Navy for that question.
Iran has clearly conducted an investigation and gave medals to their sailors for detaining the U.S. Navy sailors. So I'm wondering, what's taking so long, and also, is there any actions going to be taken against the sailors because of their behavior? And if not, why haven't medals been bestowed upon your sailors?
Again, Lucas, the Navy is conducting its investigation following its appropriate procedures and protocol. Again, when the Navy has something to report out about what happened and what, if anything, comes about as a result of that, you'll hear that from the Navy. But I think, again, this is a situation that we need to wait for the Navy to conduct its investigation without interference, and we'll get a clearer picture then. All right. Thanks, everybody. And for those of you not joining us in Brussels, we'll see you in a few days.